them when you're working, because otherwise after sort of 10 or so minutes it doesn't go a bit like a wet rag. Okay, again, side to side, leave the margin, try and work with a sort of straight line at the top, it helps, an even layer of rice across the entire sheet, except obviously at the top. Okay, not every gap has to be filled, but it does help to be spread evenly. I'm going to use a piece of fish because hopefully you're all going to try some fish sushi as well, even though Adam maybe hasn't had raw fish. Salmon is a very popular item, so I'm going to take myself some salmon. And salmon's obviously a bit more difficult to get with the same shape as cucumber because it's obviously a different item. So you can use little pieces. If you have a long piece, you can cut bits off it. But that's about right. So I've made myself a layer of salmon in the middle, as I did with the cucumber. Again, lifting with my thumbs and holding with my forefingers. Bring over, tuck under, give it a squeeze, side to side, top to bottom. If I overfill the roll, I won't get this area of margin. I'll be way over, if you can understand. There won't be that overlap and you'll have trouble sealing that roll. It will be quite difficult. So don't overfill with rice and don't overfill with filling. And one thing that often on these groups people have a tendency of doing is they try and cram 6 ingredients into this small type of roll. Try if you can with this roll to use just 1 ingredient, and then the next roll we're going to do in a moment, you'll see it's an option of putting lots of different ingredients, and that's where you get creative. Okay, so sometimes people add a few things, but I would say try and use either cucumber or asparagus or peppers, or maybe possibly the mackerel, maybe the fish sticks, but don't try and put 6 things together, you will struggle to close the roll. Okay, again on its side, and there we are. We're going to leave those for a moment while we go on to the second type. And the second type of roll is the roll which is most popular outside of Japan actually, still not very popular in Japan. There's a nice story about this roll. Anyone heard of the California roll?
Yeah.
Right, the California roll is called California roll because it was invented in California, but it was invented by the Japanese. Now the Japanese moved to California in about 1870 I think it was, the first immigration into California. And the chefs there would be making sushi for themselves and eating it. A lot of the Japanese community would be eating sushi, and the Americans would wander by and say, "Hey guys, what are you eating?" And they were told that they were eating raw fish surrounded by seaweed, and that put them off for life. They weren't interested. The Americans came by and said, "Thank you very much, not for us." Now, one Japanese sushi chef, very enterprising guy, said, "Well, this is a shame. I'm losing a potential market here. I really want to be able to sell sushi to the Americans. How can I create a roll that's actually going to appeal to them? How can I make sushi and not have them walk away with their noses in the air?" What he did, he took the same piece of seaweed, he cooked it, well, the fillings possibly, what he did, he took the seaweed, because there's really no way of getting around having seaweed, that holds everything together. And what he decided to do was cover the entire sheet like that. So the second roll we have, California roll, we cover it entirely with the rice. Then we sprinkle something on the outside, simply for decoration and flavour. I'm just going to use a little bit of black sesame here. So we sprinkle, anything that sprinkles can go on the outside. Chopped herbs, we can actually do absolutely anything that sprinkles. Chopped peanuts, anything else we want to do. I've got some chili flakes here for those that are feeling daring. You can sprinkle even chili flakes on the outside. Then what we do is we pick up the sheet that we've just covered in the top, right and left hand corners. As you can see, the rice does stick very nicely, and we flip it onto its back. Okay? So now what we have is, the rice is on the outside, the seeds on the inside, and now I can start using the filling. I can start now creating. And one of the things the Americans like to eat, as we know, is cream cheese and smoked salmon. So, let's take some cream cheese and lay it across the middle, some good old Philadelphia cream cheese. The Americans love bagels and they love their cream cheese and smoked salmon, so the enterprising sushi chef said, right, let's give them what they like to eat, but in a sushi roll. Put in some cream cheese, some nice smoked salmon strips, because they eat smoked salmon, they just don't eat raw salmon, they're not quite aware that smoked salmon has actually never been cooked. But that's the way it goes. Plain cucumber stick goes very nicely. And you can see I've used 3 different ingredients here. You could probably put another couple of things in, but again, we don't want to overfill. So again, when you're creating these, and people do have a tendency of cramming loads of in, try not to have much more than I put in there. Simply again, you won't close the roll. Okay, what we do now is, the roll sits slightly further away on the mat than the previous roll, about 1 centimetre, if you can see there. Just gives me that extra area to roll. I lift and I roll the seaweed over itself, and I've now created my own overlap. Can you all see that? There's an overlap there, which is that area that I'm now going to be able to seal with. So I basically lifted, covered the ingredients, and all I do now is I simply roll it forward so that area is on the bottom.
Remember that, Venom.
And then with my sushi mat, I give it a squeeze. So I'm now pushing down, so that area is now sealing itself through pressure. This one is sealing through moisture, this one is sealing through pressure. And just tuck in the ends, and you've got the sushi roll. So the seal basically is down the bottom. It's disappeared through the pressure of the rice. And that one you don't need to wait to cut. You can actually cut that straight away because the seaweed's on the inside. And that way, the Americans started to eat sushi. And the rest, as I saw, it's a bit sort of coy to say, but the rest is history. From there onwards, sushi became extremely popular around the world. And now this type of sushi is actually slowly filtering back to Japan, but still today, the Japanese don't really go down this route. They're very much conservative. They're very conservative, the Japanese. They like their seaweed rolls, they like their pure raw fish, sashimi. The Westerners like the inside-out roll, and therefore the combinations you can have here have allowed people to eat a lot of sushi around the world, because it's not limited to raw fish, and it's really what has allowed the whole sushi business to take off. So if you go to Yo Sushi or other sushi bars in this country, you'll find an awful lot of sushi like this. Okay? I'm now just going to cut, so we can just have a quick look. How many are we? 10. It might be possible to cut into 10. Generally I cut these rolls into 6 or 8, but I'm feeling careful, because I'd like you to all have a little taste before we go into something else. We'll do one more. So as you can see inside, the sushi roll has the same ingredients. Depending on the colours and the combinations, it's actually nice to have this sort of effect when you open it up. So I should just be able to get about 10 pieces, and I will pass it on for you to taste. So this roll has smoked salmon and cream cheese, therefore it probably doesn't need the addition of soy sauce to be tasty to eat. So when we're doing sort of canapé events and sushi being walked around on plates, there's nothing worse than dripping soy down your clean white shirt. So these types of sushi rolls actually have all the flavour that they actually need in them. So would you like to bring my conveyor belt and pass one of those around, take and pass? Thank you very much. And I'm now just going to do one more. So I'm going to make 2 of each just so you can see. And very shortly you're going to have a go yourselves. So that's your American bagel.